Welcome everyone to my podcast. This is Built to Thrive, right? This podcast will be about it's how to help businesses, help micro businesses just get better at what they do on a daily basis. Today I have the chance to speak with our wonderful leader here at GNEC, Victor Salama. Victor Salama is our director. He's been at GNEC for a couple of years. He's been helping businesses for much, much longer than that. But I want to make sure that I introduce our boss, our gang leader, Victor Salama.
All right, Ian, thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to this conversation. I know it's critical to get as much information and knowledge to micro business owners who are constantly getting bombarded by challenges and constantly stressed and stretched out. So the more we can help them with some words of well, I don't know about wisdom, but some words,
Yeah.
the better it is for them and of course for GDC as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. And today's episode, what I really wanted to do is like take some time into helping businesses really get a good structure. So today's episode is about building the structure of your business, right? And I think Victor really has a really strong idea on how to help businesses create a really strong structure to make sure that they can continue building on what they're doing, right? So to start it off, right, I wanted to make sure I give you some time and we can begin with this, right? So, you've worked with entrepreneurs all over the world, right? From nonprofits to their own businesses and your own businesses as well. Can you tell us a bit about your journey and what led you to GNEC?
Yeah, actually, so I've had a little bit of a different journey per se. Entrepreneurship wasn't a dream of mine per se, um, but I got into it while I was working at the United Nations. One of my first real sort of job, adult job, was at the United Nations, where I was involved with an entrepreneurship program that helped Latin American, African micro entrepreneurs sort of learn and try to grow. Really got the entrepreneurial bug and started learning a lot about what entrepreneurship is about and some of the challenges that these entrepreneurs face. So from there, once I met enough entrepreneurs out in different parts of Latin America and Africa, I decided to launch my own endeavor, which I ran for approximately 5 years. Then after that, I pivoted to sort of entrepreneurship programming at the nonprofit side. And then over time became an executive director, and here I am at GNEC, and really proud of the staff that we have because we truly believe in the mission of helping entrepreneurship at the Main Street level. And, for me, the Main Street level is the reality level. In the United States, we have this sort of we've elevated entrepreneurship to almost like a godlike status, someone who makes it, someone who goes public, someone who's gotten VC, money and all that. And those are wonderful. That's great. But 95% of the United States is built on Main Street and small scale business. So helping these type of entrepreneurs, it's the mom and pop stores, it's things of that nature. I'm really pleased and proud to be involved with helping those types of entrepreneurs, those business owners, and I couldn't be prouder of our team because we have one heck of a team helping all our clients out on a daily basis.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. And you've mentioned um, talking to a lot of different types of people that own businesses, right? And with that, what do you see that are the common challenges when it comes to how business are structured?
Yeah. So a lot of it comes from the formation of the business, but it's not just from the legal aspect of it. It's how did you choose that business to launch, right? Sort of how did you get to the point that you wanted to say, "Hey, I'm going to be a business owner." For a lot of people, they come at it from either a hobby or or a knowledge base, and one of the things that I find is that a lot of folks don't do enough research and a lot of validation of their idea. So once they launch it, they're already scrambling because they really never validated that idea. Is there a market? Is there a market for their business, service or product? Where is that market, right? What price points do you need to sell that product or service at? What is your cost structure? All those things are really critical. So, yeah, I have an idea. I haven't really asked that many, prospective clients about it. So I haven't really validated the idea, but I jump in because I know it's going to work. Well, that's not enough because once you launch that business, you're going to run into hurdles and challenges, competition. Right now we're going through sort of market challenges throughout the United States with, let's say, things like tariffs that we didn't think about, right? So if you're not sort of, you haven't done that validation, you haven't asked that question, you're not ready for those types of challenges. And we see a lot of that in the entrepreneurship place, not only at GNEC, but in other businesses that I've met throughout time. So I think it's really critical when you are about to launch that business or has launched that business, continue to validate your business idea. Why are you in business? What, where is the market? And can the market, is the market interested in what my product or service? And at what price point are they interested in? Once they get that, then they can figure out as well their cost structure and other things, and they can improve.
Yeah, and you talk about validation often. How often do you think like business owners should be validating their business, going over their structure, seeing where they're at and when they need to be?
I think it's an ongoing process. But here's the thing, right? Ian, as you know, since you're GNX client relationship manager and you're out in the field on a daily basis meeting with our clients, right? They are constantly in survival mode. They just don't have time to go and validate on a consistent basis. So I think part of the things that clients, or entrepreneurs can do, small business owners can do, is continually ask their clients for feedback. That's validation. When you have a client walk through your door and purchase your product or service, ask them what they want. I know, Ian, that you do that all the time when you're out in the field, and that's how we at GNEC build our products and services. But it's the same thing for a business owner. When you're making a sale, send out a survey, right? When you're having someone who rejects your product or service, that's a critical time to ask, why did you reject me? Is it price? Is it quality of product or service? Is it timeliness? They don't have the funds right now. They were just kind of fishing, around for different products or services. So it's an ongoing basis. It's not an academic activity. Maybe at the beginning, before you're launching a business, it's a little bit more academic. But when you're in it on a daily basis, 24/7, asking your customers and asking your partners for feedback around your products or services is a must and should be done constantly.
Right. And let's say like they get this feedback, right? Taking time to I think taking time to like talk to the partners in regards to the feedback that they're getting, how to organize their structure, right? And after they get that feedback, right, they gotta redevelop their structure plan and what they're gonna be doing, right? With that, um, businesses always have their struggles and they have to be able to pinpoint where they're hurting the most. What do you recommend that, let's say that they figure out what's wrong with their business? What do you recommend they do?
I would actually take a step back. Before they're figuring out their business structures and business struggles, they need to figure out themselves. And this is a really critical point. They need to figure out what their strengths and weaknesses are. When we do, when we're sort of teaching sort of entrepreneurship 101, everybody wants to do, everybody should do a SWOT analysis, right? Strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The strengths and weaknesses are internal analyses, and those are really critical because even if an entrepreneur knows the challenges that are happening to his or her business, they may not have the skill sets to pivot and to change that. So understanding your skills, understanding your know-how, understanding what you're good at and what you're not is really critical because then you can bring someone else either on a contract basis or on a partnership basis that can help you balance out those weaknesses and augment your strengths. Once you understand that and you have the skills in place, then you really have to sit down and say, well, is it a price point, a price point issue? Then you look at it and, well, if I lower my prices, I need to figure out my cost structure. So you need an accountant, right? So if I'm having sort of partnership challenges or you need to expand, you may need an attorney to find out, how do I set up a partnership of some kind? Again, taxes. Am I paying too much in taxes? You also need a CPA to figure out what your tax structure is. So, you know, luckily, for any client that comes through GNEC's doors and has a loan with GNEC, they get wrapped around with all kinds of supports, certainly led by you and El Alvarez, our program director, that strengthens their weaknesses. So understanding your own strengths and weaknesses, then understanding where you can, augment augment strengthen your strengths and sort of strengthen, and make your weaknesses weaker is the first step. Then after that, you can go and access all kinds of things. And let me make one more point, Ian. New Jersey has tremendous amount of organizations that support micro and small businesses, from the state level to the county level, down to the local town level and the nonprofit sector. So there are a lot of ways and a lot of services and resources that entrepreneurs can access in order to, help them with the business struggles that they are facing right now.
Exactly. And with that too, right? Like finding these people, like I know that some of the clients come to me and I tell this to my clients, I can't help you if you don't talk to me. I can't help you if you don't let me know what's going on. Because if you tell me what's going on, it might not only be you that are struggling, but also there might be other people that are struggling with the same, but they don't even know that are there. And something that happens often too is that they wait until it's too long for them to ask for the help, right? Especially when it comes to their financials, right? And that's something that we keep seeing even when, from the moment that we see a lot of applications on a weekly basis. And oftentimes that business are doing bad, it's because they don't really understand where they're at financially and where they need to be in order for them to be getting more access to the capital that they need, right? With that, right? What are let's say like you did everything at the beginning, you're organized, you have your structure, you've received feedback from some of your clients slash partners. Now, how do they go about increasing the current market, right? When they're
Yeah.
talking about the structure, like how do they grow?
Yeah, great question. So there are many ways to grow. One of them, it all depends on what your product or service is, right? As I always explain when I'm doing sort of entrepreneurship education workshops, McDonald's doesn't have the same sort of target audience as Tiffany's, right? Tiffany's may sell one item a day, but they're selling it at a $25,000 level, as opposed to McDonald's needs volume. So you need to understand what you're trying to achieve. There's always a situation where you always need to look at your cost structure. Being cost efficient and cost effective and creating, a net profit sort of is the key, because then even if your volume is not that high, you're still making money. So understanding your cost structure is really critical for you to expand. But frankly, you need to sell. And a lot of people don't like to sell. They're not comfortable selling. Well, if you're in the entrepreneurship game and you don't like selling, you're either in the wrong business or you find someone else to do it. Luckily, for a GNEC client who's a loan client, they have access to Elizabeth Lopez, who's our, client sales leader, who can help individuals with their sales practices, not only sort of structuring themselves for more sales, but really doing the selling themselves. But let's say you don't have an Elizabeth Lopez on your side. One of the things that you need to do is you need to figure out what kind of partnerships are out there. Can you find a distributor who will do the sales and the placement? If you have let's say a food product, have you gone into a supermarket and spoken to, the aisle leader, the line leader, to say, hey, we have a product. How can I put it in place? You have to be able to sell. You can't just be in the background if you're a one or two person shop and expect your business to grow. So you have, number one, on the cost structure side, on the cost side, figure out if you're, at your leanest and meanest. Number two, if you don't like to sell, you have to force yourself a little bit, maybe take a course, learn. Or number three, find someone who you can hire on a commission basis who loves to sell, and is able to get your products and services out into the field. It's not an easy thing to sell, let me tell you. You have to be willing to get rejected,
Hmm.
and that's sort of hurtful sometimes because you
Yeah.
believe in your product or services, but
Yeah.
it's one of the few ways to grow.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this from my experience when I used to be in sales is that it is not easy. Rejection and receiving rejection, right? On a daily basis, let's say, it is not something that it's easy to handle, right? And with that, right? So, like thinking about the selling process, thinking about like are your ideal clients, it's very important to the structure. Um, what are some habits that people should have in business once they figure out, okay, so like this is the ideal client. I want to grow. Let me get the biggest client that should possibly get. What do you recommend doing that, or do you recommend taking a step back and really like analyzing like what they're currently at?
Yeah, one of the challenges that a lot of folks have when they go into business is they look at the biggest prospective client, they could have, and they say, "I'm gonna go after. I'm gonna go after Amazon. I'm gonna go after Costco. I'm gonna go after Target," or, whatever it may be. Well, the thing is, you really don't know too enough about your business to do that, number 1, and number 2, you're literally on a knife's edge in dealing with such large scale sort of prospective clients, because as soon as there's a little hint of failure, they're gonna pivot and they're gonna go somewhere else. Let's remember something, and I hate to say this to business owners out there. The chances that your product or service are so unique that you are the only one that offers it is between none and none. Okay. There's always someone out there that is basically offering a similar, if not exact, product or service. So you need to be sharp. You need to be agile. You need to be flexible and you need to be cost effective. So, my suggestion to everyone is start small. Don't go too far geographically. If you're based in a town, draw a concentric circle around your town, 20, 30 miles, and look around and see who your prospective clients could be in that area. Remember, you should have doing business idea validation, right? Business idea validation means understanding who your target market is, where they're based, and who exactly they are. So you should be able to know exactly where those people are. But don't go too far. Start small. Make sure that you understand your cost structure. Like, this is probably the fourth or fifth time I mentioned cost structure. Understand if you're, you know, manufacturing someone, do you have the capacity to do so and at what level? And I think the most important thing, and I remember trying to do this when I was a business owner, is wrap up the week with a little bit of analysis. Try to understand what you've been able to achieve. What are the challenges that you've seen during that week? And really get ready for the week. Monday is not the time to get ready for your week. Monday is the time to implement what you've thought about over the weekend or on Friday. And that's the critical piece, because you really have to be sharp. But again, start small, take steps, make sure that you're testing out your product and service and validating sort of your business concept, your business model. So that way, when you do have an opportunity to sign up for a big client, you are ready to go. And that profit margin makes your life a lot better.
Yeah, and that absolutely makes sense. And I talk to clients, right? Sometimes I tell them, it's like, hey, you need to sit down at the end of the week, see what you've done right, where you, where you went right, where you went wrong, see if there's anything that you can improve, right? Because your business it's kind of like a baby. You got to take care of it. And not only is just you doing the work, but also think about what things you need to do in order for the business to grow. And with that, I know you've given us a lot of advice. I know you've mentioned a lot of your story in terms of like what you've seen, what people should be doing. But let's say I've been in business for a year or two, right? And I'm trying to get better in my structure, better in my organization. What are the three things that they can do this week to get organized?
Okay. Number one, I'm going to go back to cost structure. I'm sorry. You need to have your accounting and your bookkeeping right. If you don't have your accounting and bookkeeping right, you are flying blindly, right? The ledger, right? Your revenue, your P&L, your profit and loss, document is a critical piece of knowing what you're doing. If you're not making a profit and you don't see a foreseeable future where you're making a profit, why are you in this for? No, there's no God-given right per se to owning a business. A business has to yield something. What GNEC is in it to help our clients build long-term equity for themselves and their family through business ownership, right? But if the business is not yielding enough money to be able, to give you that livelihood after a couple of years, it might not be around. So that is a number one critical. Number two, do not go at it alone. Keep looking for organizations. There are tons of organizations like GNEC, not exactly like GNEC. We're really good, but other organizations that offer business support services. Access them. There are tons of free services. So that way they can help build a network around you where you don't have to do everything, but you're supplementing your human capital, with other organizations that can offer you different services, whether it's around sales or, we have a great social media marketing program now, things of that nature. There's a lot of different things. And number three, make sure you keep working on your sales. Make sure you keep, you know, your brand super clean. Your brand reputation is critical. So it doesn't have to be social media marketing. It can be just word of mouth. Finding those partners, finding a way for you to get your products and service out there is a really critical thing. It's the meat and potatoes of what a business is about. So yep, accounting, the bookkeeping,
Mhm.
partnerships around you, and then sales. If you're good at all three, or you find partners and service providers that are able to help you there, you're going to be in very good shape.
Well, thank you so much for that. And I know that I speak to my clients in regards to that, in regards to making sure that your financials are together, making sure you understand, first of all, like what is the cost of doing business and what it looks so for your business to actually put some money in your pocket. So thank you so much for that, Victor. Do you have any last remarks that you want to make before we finish today's um, podcast?
Yeah. Last thing, and again, I'm going to harp on this. If you are in New Jersey, you are lucky that you're surrounded by a lot of different organizations that can help you. Plus, a state agency like NJDA that is very active and engaged in helping micro and small businesses out. There is no shame in going out and making a phone call to these organizations and say, I need help. There's nothing wrong with it. That's what we're here for. So if you need capital, call GNEC or maybe business support services. We may provide it, we may not. But if we don't provide it, we'll find another partner who will. You are not alone in this, and you don't need to be alone. Whether it's in any other language, New Jersey is a very ripe state for business support services. So access them.
Absolutely. And talk to me, right? If I don't know, I'll find out for you. One of the things that I love about my job is that business owners can come to me about their problems. And if I don't know, I can help find the solution. I spend a lot of time dedicating myself to make sure that I'm available for my clients, that I'm being able to talk to them and what's going on with their business. Because if they don't know and I don't know, then Victor, you might know. Maybe Al would know, maybe Phoebe will know, and or what other partner organizations that we work with will know, right? And the
And
only way
and
that
one
we
thing,
Mhm.
sorry, Ian, one thing, let me state. We have an event, um, September 16th, 2026 in Newark, New Jersey. It's called the Garden State Entrepreneurs Expo, and we'll have, 25 organizations there, tabling and offering their services to you. So, check out www.njmba.org. Every once in a while, we're going to have a sign up there in the next couple of months. It's a great way to meet tons of great organizations that offer a lot of services. Again, we'd love for you to work with GNEC, but we're not the only game in town. And Ian is definitely, Ian, you're a great resource for a lot of people. So between you and this event, they'll be able to find whatever they need.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. I am available, people. Please talk to me, reach out to me, and if you don't know and I don't know, I'll find it for you. Thank you.
Thank you.